So today we'll go with a new topic of Servlet, which is called as filter. Okay, heading would be filter. Now this filter is also one more, which one? Component given by Sun, which can accept a web request. So Sun has given three technologies which can accept a web request. Okay, you can accept the request in a Servlet, or you can accept the request by a JSP, or you can also accept the request by filter also. So three technologies Sun has given to you for accepting the web request. But each has its own purpose. Like Servlet is used for as the front controller, okay, and it will accept all the web requests. JSP also can accept the web request, but it is used for presentation. Filter also can accept the web request, but it is used for a different purpose. For what purpose, we'll start seeing now. Clear? So, but these are the three technologies provided by Sun for accepting web request. So, filter is a web component which is responsible to intercept the incoming request and intercept the outgoing response. It's you are responsible for intercepting the incoming request and the outgoing response. Filter is also a web technology from Sun which can accept a web request. Just now I told you. See, this is how it happens. Okay, you will have the browser, okay, and you will have the servlet or JSP. So now, till now what was happening, as soon as you make the request, directly the request was going either for a servlet or to a JSP, but now it will not be like that. First the request will be accepted by the filter, and then the request will be forwarded to the servlet or JSP. Similarly, when the response is coming back, it will go via filter. Getting this idea now? So this idea you should get now, what it is, clear? Yeah, this is how it happens. So see this, filter sits in between the client and the servlet. It sits in between the client and the servlet. It is in between, and it is used to stop the request. It will stop the request before the incoming request goes to the servlet, and stops the response before the incoming response goes to the client. This is the functionality of it. So if you use a filter, it will be stopping the request before the request goes to the servlet, and stopping the response before the response goes to the client. This is what it will do. Okay, so this is the concept. First we'll understand how it works, then we'll understand why it will be used. What logic you write inside that filter, we'll start understanding next. Okay, this is also a very important thing. Okay, very important support what you got from the servlet. Slowly you'll understand why it becomes very, very important. Okay, so we'll see this. So now what we do is, if at all you want to write servlet, you know what you do. Either you'll write service method, request, response, and you know how to write the servlet now. So you'll have the service method and write your logic. JSP you know how to write, that is okay. But here when you're writing a filter, what you do is, you will be actually implementing an interface called as filter. Here you extend HTTP servlet, here you'll implement what? One interface called as filter. And you'll override three methods. So, yeah, you'll override three methods. Okay, you'll override three methods. So one of the method there is do filter. That's it. You write it. And here the parameters will be request, HTTP select request, HTTP select response. One more extra parameter will come here called as filter chain. One more extra class or interface you'll be seeing. That's it. So that's it. You write it and put it here. So now we'll do some configuration. Okay. So one small configuration in the web.x you have to configure again. Like how you configure for servlet, same way you'll have to configure for what? Filter also. If you see the output, you'll understand now. Okay. So as soon as you configure it, before the request goes to the servlet, first it will be accepted by the filter, and before the response is given, it will be intercepted by the filter before the response is given. We'll see the output, then we'll discuss more on these things. Because concept has to be proved with example only. So what I'll do, see here, again in D drive, Ravi Kumar, I've got one more new workspace created called as Servlet filter examples. This will be the workspace. In this we'll create the projects. I already got the projects, two projects I'll be showing you on what? Servlet filter. Okay, this will be the workspace. Let's see this. You know, this is your servlet. You know how to write your servlet. Very simple. init, do get, whatever you want, you can write it. Yeah. So then how do you write a filter? It's very simple. See, my filter implements filter and you'll override init method, do filter method and destroy method. It's almost all very similar to a servlet. But the methods will be what? Init with filter config parameter. Do filter with servlet request, not HTTP servlet request. Servlet request, servlet response, filter chain. Understood? The parameters are carefully noted: servlet request, servlet response and filter chain. And this is the destroy method. Like this, you know, write your filter. That's it, very simple. And you'll be configuring where, you know, in the web.xml like this. See, login. See, you know about filter servlet. This you are very clear. Same thing, almost all ditto it is. What? Filter, filter mapping, filter name, filter class. Everything same. Remember, the URL for both will be same now. URL pattern for both will be same. Login and login. And for this is the filter class now. Give the fully qualified class name. The name you have to give for this filter is my filter. So if the URL pattern is login, it will execute the servlet by name my filter. This is a servlet, filter by name my filter, and this is the class. It will execute this. Flow is very simple. But remember, both the URL pattern should be same. So when the client makes a request to that servlet now, first it will go through this filter. That's it. Understood? First it will go through this filter, then it will execute the logic in the servlet. Again, when the response is coming back, it will come through the filter. This is the idea. So this configuration is very important now. So here what you have to understand. Okay. So when you are writing this class here, my filter, this you should understand. There are two things you have to understand here. When you are overriding the do filter method here, this method is very important here. fc.toFilter. Now, whatever logic you write above fc.doFilter will be called as pre-processing logic. Pre-processing logic. Whatever logic you write below fc.doFilter will be post-processing logic. Now, what do you mean by pre-processing logic? Any logic you want to execute before the request goes to the servlet is called as pre-processing logic. Similarly, any logic you want to execute after the servlet completes execution, this part is called as post-processing logic. Yeah? So this is very important now, where you have to write the code. In the diagram I have written it. Any code you want to execute, see, request, when the browser makes the request, it will go it, you know that. Okay, it will go to the servlet. But before going, you want to execute some logic, write that logic before fc.doFilter. That's it. You just write it. So before the logic goes and execute in the servlet, first this will be executed. Okay. And when the response is coming back now, similarly, it will execute the lines of code after fc.doFilter. That's it. So you have to decide what is pre-processing logic, what is post-processing logic. Understood? Now it is not mandatory that you have to write both the logic, pre-processing also and post-processing also. Supposingly you don't require pre-processing logic, don't write this part. Understood? Supposingly you don't require post-processing logic, don't write any logic below do filter. I show you the example. Clear? So any logic you write, see, if I don't write this here, so this filter does not have what? Post-processing logic. Simple. Okay. By chance, if I don't write this logic here, this filter does not have pre-processing logic. So you decide whether you want pre-processing logic or post-processing logic or both you want. That you decide. Clear? So what is that logic? We'll start seeing now. So this is the idea of filter. Now let me tell you why we use the filter. One simple example I will tell you. The concept is clear now. Okay. So first, see this. Assuming the scenario here. Now, you know, when you are coding the request. Okay, see this. It's very simple. Now, see this is your filter and this is your servlet. So it will be accepted here. Do filter will execute request, response and filter chain. These are the three parameters. Okay. Here you'll have the service method. You'll have request and response. That is okay. So when the request comes, it will go to the filter, through the filter it will go to the servlet. Similarly, when the response is coming, this is the way it will be giving the response now. My requirement is simple. I want to log the client information. Means when you are developing a web application, this might be a requirement. Log means what will happen? The client will make requests from various parts of the world. Like if it is Gmail, Yahoo and all, what happens? The clients can be making requests from various parts of the world. So you want to log the IP address of all the clients. You want to keep track. Okay, who made the request from which place and all that. So for that, what you have to do? See, if I want, I can write that logic in the servlet itself. But generally we separate the core logic from these kind of logics. Core logic means logic related to business logic, application and all that we write here. This contains the core logic. Okay, here some other pre-processing logic will be writing. Okay, so now this is called as pre-processing logic. Yes or no? I just want to log the client info. So obviously this logic will be what? Pre-processing logic. Here I don't require post-processing. Understood? So you decide. So if I want to do that, very simple. You'll call on methods here. REQ is there. You got the access to what? Request object. That's not a problem. Simply you'll call on method request.get a remote address. That's it. ADDR string IP is equal to request.get remote. It's some method where in request hub. Call it over. I can connect to database, store that value, and after that what will happen? So after this you have to call fc.doFilter and you have to send these two arguments, request and response. So whatever I written on top is called as what now? Pre-processing logic. Whatever you want you write, log it to database or do whatever you want, or log it to a file, log file, anything, okay. So whatever you write here is pre-processing, and once it completes it, this doFilter method, what it will do now? It will execute the service method. Now remember, if you want to execute the service method, two arguments are vital. You can't execute the service without what? Request and response. So that's why I'm calling the doFilter method. I'm invoking it. This method is present in this parameter, filter chain FC. It is present here. So use that method, call it doFilter and pass the two arguments. Now the servlet will be executed. You know how the servlet will be identified? The URL pattern will be same now. So see, for both of them, the URL pattern is what? Hello and or login and login I'll take. For both you are taken URL as what? Login and login, no? So in the client, you see he'll enter name. Supposing he is entering some details, enter name and he'll submit. And here the form action is equal to .. login. Form action is what? Login now. So when the user makes the request, the URL will be generated as what? Login now. Form action is what? .. login now. So when the user submits the request, in the URL, you can find it, it will be generating as login. So when the request comes now, the container, before executing the servlet, you also configured what? The filter for login URL, no. So it will execute this. So it should be same. If it is different, no. It should be same. So when the request comes for this URL login to this servlet, first it will execute this and then it will go to servlet. Again similarly it will come back. But it finds there is no post-processing logic. So if it is not there, what will it execute? So if you want, write. If you don't want, leave it. It's something like a stack, man. doFilter method will invoke which one? Service method. Service will invoke, all this, we execute all this logic and response will come back. One method invoking another method, no. It's like a stack, that's it. So this is an example for pre-processing logic. Again we'll see the output first. Okay, I showed you the code, I'll show you the output. Then we'll continue more with filter. So just what you have to understand, the filter sits in between the client and the servlet and it will intercept the request as well as it will intercept the response. This is the idea of filter. Okay, so very powerful and extensively used. Yeah, first see the flow how we go. There will be on login.html now. From the HTML, we'll enter name now. Input type is equal to text, name is equal to name, and I'll submit. So first, what is the URL now? Login. So and look at the web.xml. This is how we are done. Login. It will go to for login. Both the login. What is there? One is my Servlet class. Other one is my filter class. Same configuration. Okay. So when you click on this button, URL will be generated. First, it will go to filter only. And look how the filter looks. Public class my filter implements filter. Now where is this interface? In which package? Java Servlet package. It is there in the Java Servlet package. So implement it. So then fine. And override three methods. Which are the three methods? init, do filter. These are lifecycle methods. Carefully understand. These are lifecycle. You cannot use any other method here. Okay. These are the only methods which will be called by the container now. Okay. And see this. Begin do inside init method. Okay. Begin do filter of filter before Servlet. So before the Servlet executes, this will be executing. Okay. Request or get parameter. You can get the parameter also if you want. But most important is I wanted the IP address. Fine. You can get it. And okay, that is okay. I'm doing SOP. If you want, you can store it to database or store it into the log file. Whatever it is, that's your wish. That is okay. But that is called as what now? Pre-processing logic. Now immediately when I call fc.doFilter, which method will be executed? Service method of myServlet will be executed. Understood? Automatically it will be called. See, this is the Servlet, myServlet. It will come here. Here also nothing logic I have written. Same thing I have written. See, request.get parameter. I can get the values here also. But I just showed you. It's the same request response object you are working. Clear? So here you write whatever core logic you want. That is secondary. But I am doing some output. Okay. So inside Servlet whatever and I am printing your name is. I'll give back the response. But again when the response comes back, what will happen now? The pending statements here, these two will be executed. Yes or no? I'll give back the response. But now the pending statements will be executed. Done? So we'll see. First we'll understand the flow. Then we'll discuss about life cycle. When it gets created, when it gets destroyed, all that we'll discuss next. So I'll deploy it now. Carefully observe. Run on server. Next, finish. I've just deployed it. And notice what has happened. Look at the console. See this. Inside init method of filter. So the filter instance gets instantiated when the server starts up. Understood? But Servlet instance, when does it get created? Two conditions. One, when the first request comes, or when you start the server also. But if you use load on startup. Servlet instance gets created in two ways. One, when the first request comes, or two, when the server starts. But for that you have to use load on startup tag. For Servlet I have not used load on startup tag. Correct? Huh? So now the Servlet will be instantiated only when the first request comes. But always remember this. Filter instance is created only during server startup. So all these objects are created and managed by the container. Which container? Web container. The container knows when to create the filter instance. The container knows when to create the Servlet instance. All this. So that's why after writing the class, you will mention that filter in the web.xml before deploying. So what is that containing? It's called as web.xml is called as what? Deployment descriptor. Whatever you are deploying, you'll put it there. Clear? So you have to specify it. Only then the container knows this is filter class, this is listener class. Otherwise it will not know how to handle those. So you have done it. These are the tags. Fine. It's deployed. Are you clear? Now let's go with the request. Yeah, what is the request now? I'll make the request for HTML slash what? Login.html. Done? Make the request. So enter name. I'll give any name. Enter name Ravi, I'll type. Understood? And I'll press submit. So look at the output here bottom. There also you focus. On the top also you focus. See this, your name is Ravi. It went to what? Filter. From filter it went to Servlet. From Servlet it came back to filter. From filter you got the response now. So let's see the output. Confirmation. Inside init method of myServlet. Now Servlet got instantiated. Because we didn't use load on startup. Yes? So when the Servlet gets instantiated when the first request comes. If you don't use load on startup. Done. Next, Servlet got instantiated, that's all, but it didn't get executed. What is happening? Do filter method of filter before Servlet, yes or no? Servlet only got instantiated. When the request went, when the request went, filter was already instantiated here. Servlet was still not instantiated. When I made the request, that time filter instance got created and it executed init method here. After that you can see which method is getting executed. Do filter is getting executed. After do filter completes till it reaches fc.doFilter, it will go on executing. When do filter is invoked, now it will call service. Same thing, see there now. First init method of Servlet, then what? Do filter. Then in filter name is, I am printing request.get parameter, I am printing the IP address. Fine. Then now which one is getting executed? Service will invoke do get. Fine. So it goes on, see this, do get, inside Servlet, and end of do get. Do get completes execution. Now when the response has been given, pw.println I have told. What is happening now? Inside filter after Servlet completed. See these two lines you focus. These are what? Below fc.doFilter. Filter chain.doFilter. These two lines you notice here. Where are these two lines, sir? They are in my filter after fc.doFilter. See this. It is after do get. Do get is the last line here. See this line. Do get, what you are seeing here now. This is the last line in Servlet. After that these two statements got executed. I show you the Servlet now. See in Servlet, end of do get method in Servlet. After the Servlet completes execution, now you can see it is coming via filter. This is the execution process. Yeah. So you should understand this very carefully. Yeah. So find this. Let's come back. Filter is a web component. Just now what you wrote the notes. Filter is a web component which is responsible to intercept the incoming request and intercept the outgoing response. Filter is also web technology from Sun which can accept the web request. It can also do it. Now see, when the client makes a request, first filter will be accepting the request, pre-processing logic will execute, fc.doFilter, then it will call the logic in Servlet or JSP you can do. After that core logic completes execution. When the control comes back, this post-processing logic executes and then the response will be handed over to the client. Clear? Yeah. So now filter sits in between the client and the Servlet. It is used to stop the request before going incoming request goes to Servlet and stop the response before the incoming response goes to the client. Very clear. So now once you got the grip of this, we'll start seeing more things about filter now. Clear? Yes. Now filter lifecycle. Filter is a web component like Servlet whose lifecycle will be managed by the web container. We are seeing the lifecycle now. We start seeing more things about filter now. Okay. It is also managed by the container. And life cycle of the filter is as follows. Almost all, it's very much similar to a Servlet. Understood? Very much similar to a Servlet. See this. Instantiation, life cycle. Instantiation, initialization. There you say service. Here we call filtering. One terminology. Understood? Finalization, destruction. Same thing. So instantiation, initialization, filtering, finalization, destruction are the 5 life cycle stages of what? Filter. Now instantiation. What do you mean by instantiation? Creating a filter instance. That's only called as instantiation. When does that happen? Only once during server startup. Yes. When as soon as the instance is created, definitely immediately what happens? Init method gets executed. You saw the output also now. Yes. So that is initialization. If you want any initialization logic to be written now, like database connection and all that, you can do it there in the init method of filter. So yes, initialization. It is supported by which one? Init method. And there what code you write? Doing any initialization code. That also execute only once during server startup only. Because when the server starts, instance of the filter is created, immediately init method gets executed. Then filtering. Filtering is nothing but what? It is supported by whom now? Do filter method. And this happens for every request. I'll show you next. Clear? And finalization. Destroy is supported by whom now? Destroy method. And it is used for what? Doing cleanup operation. And that happens only when server is shut down. Okay. Destruction means destroying the filter instances only once when the server is shut down. Note, the first two steps, that is 1 and 2, occur when the server starts, and the last two steps occur only when the server shuts down. First two and third, which one? Last two. So this will go on executing n number of times. Filtering will go on happening n number of times. So notice now, you understood that? Okay. And yeah, filter component has following three lifecycle methods: init, do filter, and destroy method. These are the lifecycle. So next, we'll make the request here. I'll open up one more browser. This is readme.txt. I'll take the URL. See, you have seen this output. Okay, from outside I'll make one more request. See this. So I'll enter name as something like Q. Done. Enter. Fine, you're getting the output. But see this output you see here. Till now it was printing till here now. This output you saw. Now see inside filter. Sorry, inside begin do filter. Again it starts off. End of do filter is over. That was first request. This is second request now. Begin do filter. Method of filter before servlet. Inside filter name is Q, IP address. Then it will go to a servlet. Servlet also your printing name and IP address. And do get completes. Then what? Filter is executed. Filter completes execution. One more client. Same process. One more client. Same process. Means filtering will go on happening n number of times. If you want to see this, I'll clear all this if you want for confirmation. See, I'm clearing all this. Shall I clear it? Console. Okay, I'll clear it. See, now nothing is there in the console now. Okay, one more client now. I'll open Chrome. Like that you can open multiple. So see, now I'll enter value as Z something. Enter. Fine, that is okay. But see this. Do filter method. Then what again? Inside filter, do get, servlet, do get. So that filtering will go on happening every time the request comes. This is a life cycle. Now, we'll see the life cycle. So I'll shut down the server. See here. Stop. Go and see the console. Destroy method. First servlet instance is destroyed. Then the filter will be destroyed. So both of them are getting destroyed during the server shutdown. But before destroying, they'll execute the destroy method. So before the object is destroyed, which one? Filter instance and the servlet instance. Okay. The container will call the destroy method before destroying. Why it will call the destroy method? To release the resource. Understood? So the destruction, see, the creation and destruction of the objects is fully taken care by the container. Okay, and when it has to be created, when it has to be destroyed, it knows. And also the container knows when to call which method. When it should call init method, when it should call do filter method, when it should call destroy, it knows that very clearly. Init will be called when the instance is created. Do filter will be called every time the request comes. Understood? And destroy will be called just before the object is going to be destroyed. Very clear. Only you should decide now what logic to write where. What logic you'll write in init, what logic you'll write in do filter, what logic you'll write in strike. Very much similar to servlet. Understood? Fine. So this is how it works. Okay. Again, if you want, you can start. See this, I'll stop and I'll start now. Till now you saw this is the, okay. Start the server. Now see what happens. Init method of filter is executed. Again, the instance has been created. Okay. One more thing I'll show you. But okay. Now again, when I make the request, what happens? Now what happens? Servlet instance will be created. So when you make the request now the filter instance, when you start the server, filter instance got created. Now when I make the request, that time the servlet instance will be created. Just a second, it's a bit busy. Next, so see this. Now still now the Servlet instance has not got created. As soon as I make the request, a something I'll do. Now the Servlet instance gets created, and then do filter will start execution. Remember this. Okay. So now one thing what you have to understand, if you want the Servlet instance also to be instantiated during server startup time, what you will do? Load on startup you will do. Yes, good. One you can get. But for filter, no load on startup and all. Remember that. It is instantiated when the server starts only. Now see, I'll deploy it. Save it. Stop. And you can deploy it now. See what happens. Just I deployed. Both the instances have got created. Clear? Yes. This was very clearly documented when I was teaching you Servlet. In the Servlet, one topic I had left pending when I was teaching you. See, this is the Servlet document. I'm opening up for you. Here I discussed Servlet life cycle. What happens during server startup? Yeah. At server startup, what happens? This you know, it initializes web.xml. That is okay. Next it creates context object. Then it will create what? Filter instances. You can write more filters, I will show you. So, but now filter instance will be created. After the filter instance, then thread pool will be created. After the thread pool, now if there are any Servlet configured with load on startup, Servlet instances will be created. Clear? And then server is now ready for accepting web request. This you know. So this is what? This one point we had left and I am covering that today. Clear? Fine. Now what happens when the server shuts down? That is also important. Container first destroys what? Servlet instances. Then it will destroy what? Config objects. Then it will destroy what? Filter instances. Then it will destroy what? Context. Then thread pool. Then web.xml. Means that objects containing the information of XML file will be destroyed. Remember this diagram. This also I had covered. So first which object will be destroyed? Servlet instance. Then Servlet config. Then filter instance. This one. Then thread pool. Then these objects. The objects having information about web.xml. Same has been explained here. It's a very important diagram. So refer to that. I have clearly explained what happens at server shutdown time. Clear? Filter is also there in the diagram. This is a filter. So this diagram completes now. Clear? Fine. So just I gave information. Yes, according to that now, let's see. I'll make the request. One request I'll make. Let's see this now. So as soon as you make the request now, html/login.html. Yes. For both now what will happen? init of both got executed. Now only do filter will execute first. I didn't make. I didn't make the request. Q I'll type. Enter. Now see. init method. This was early only. Now this one you can see. Directly do filter. Then do get. And means begin of do get and end of do get. That do filter. If I shut down the server, first Servlet instance, then filter instance. Very clear it is. Clear? So these are things get executed for you inside the server. So this is the life cycle now. Are you clear with the life cycle? Yes, we'll continue more now. See, when the web container starts up your web application, it creates only one instance. Okay, for Servlet also same. One instance of the Servlet, here also for filter also what? Only one instance. Okay, so when the web container starts up your web application, it creates only one instance of each filter. I have written only one now, but if you write 2-3 filters also, only one instance of all the filter classes will be created. When the web container starts up your web application, it creates only one instance of each filter you have declared in the deployment descriptor, and the same is used to serve all the clients. Clear? Same like Servlet. Servlet also only one instance, no? and all the clients will be using the same Servlet. Same thing. By default, Servlet is following what model? Multi-thread model. Remember that. Okay. Then next, generally common functionality across Servlets can be factored into a reusable filter. Now here it becomes important. There are sometimes logic which will have to write across many Servlets. Like supposing I have written 3-4 Servlets. Now logging the IP address has to be written in every Servlet now. Now you are understanding. Till now you are thinking what? What is the use of filter? We could have written that same logic in what? Servlet only. Getting the IP address logging to database, I could have written it in the Servlet only. But the thing is, okay, if you write it in one Servlet, okay, but if the same logic is required across multiple places, 2 or more Servlets, that time what will you do? Redundantly write the logic everywhere, no? That is one thing, okay, writing it okay. But tomorrow, you don't want the logic, what will you do? You have to remove it everywhere, no? No, nothing like that, just remove the filter, over. If you don't want any logic, just remove the filter. It is pluggable, we say. If you want, use it, else remove it. Now I'll see the filter will not execute. Everything remains as it is. Okay, see, we can add or remove a filter just by configuring in web.xml file. Code remains same, everything. See here, what I'll do. In web.xml, what I'll do? I'll just remove this, over. Now it will not execute. So whatever logic you want, you apply for your Servlet, later stage. So when you are develop your application, so there are some logics which you want to apply later. So those kind of logics you can start applying now, like this pre-processing, post-processing. Okay, client will suddenly tell, no, log me the IP address for the application. He gives you a requirement. Now instead of writing this logic in all the Servlets, what do you do? Write on filter, plug it in, plugging it in. So we call it as pluggable component. Understood? Because whenever you want you can add it, whenever you want you can remove it. See this, now it will not execute. Again I'll stop the server. Okay, it stopped. Okay, we'll deploy, I'll close, one second, I'll close all this browsers. Yeah, so again I'll deploy it now. See, only I've used load on startup. Only which one will be created? Servlet instance. There is no filter only now. Go and see in the console. Only the Servlet instance. It's pluggable. Whenever you want to add, whenever you want, you remove it. See this. HTML / login.html. Fine. Enter name. RAVI. Where it will go? No filter only. But class is there. Where is the class? It is here. I did not delete the class. See, my filter class is still here in the project. I only made the modification in what? Web.xml. Done? So you decide. Clear? So I'll bring it back to normal, everything. So yes, see this. We'll come back now. Generally, common functionality across Servlets can be factored into a reusable filter. If you need any logic commonly across many Servlets, you write it into a filter. And we can add or remove a filter just by configuring in web.xml file. Filters allow you to apply pre-process and post-processing logics. I told you, no? Let's still go and understand what is in deeper pre and post-processing now. See, when you send a request to a Servlet, container invokes the Servlet service method. Before invoking the Servlet service method, you can stop the request and you can do some processing on the request. This is called as pre-processing the request. If you ask what is pre-processing, this is the answer. And you can do this by writing a filter. Now some of the common tasks which you can do in pre-processing are logging the client info into the log file. Validating session. You can validate whether the user is still existing or not. Validating the session. Okay. Then authenticating the client. You have to authenticate now. Means if the user is valid, then allow him into the application. That's called as what? Authenticating. There are two things, authenticating and authorizing. Okay. So filter mainly deals with what? Authentication. Authorization will happen later inside the application. But the filter is used mainly for authentication purpose. Okay. Means see, this is related to security. Right now, you will not get that good idea about that, but just I'll give you an idea. See, only if the user is valid, Okay, I'm talking about authenticating now. Only if is valid. Okay, then what you will do? Means when the request comes, this will be your filter and this will be your servlet. Okay, what will the filter do? First it will connect to database, checks whether the user is valid, authenticates. If he is valid, then only it will allow him into the application. And their authorization is different. If he is super user, he'll have access to all the methods. If he is normal user, he'll have access to a limited number of business methods. You know, we write business logic here. Okay, so if he is a super user, then you can allow him to access all the methods. Normal user, you'll allow him to access the required methods. So that is authorization. So authorization actually comes in the model part. Model we say. This is again it will continue. Just I'll write it clearly for you. 1 second. So like this, when you start developing projects, you'll start understanding what all requirement will come and how you get the support for all this. This will be the servlet. Then you'll have the model actually. So this is how the final project will be coded. Roughly I'm giving you an idea like how applications will be developed. So authentication is dealing with here. Means you can write authentication logic, or this is second one, or you can write okay, log client info, logging client info, authentication, then session validation, like that many logics you write. These are some examples of pre-processing logic, some examples. Understood? And it will come to Servlet. Here generally you do authorization. Means if he is super user, administrator, okay, then you will allow him access to all the methods. If he is normal user, you will allow him access to only required methods, limited number of methods. So this is one basic idea. So finally the response will be given to the client. One small flow I have given to you, just to get how things get executed in your project. Yeah. Yeah, some of the common tasks I told you, which you can do in pre-processing are logging the client info, validating session, as well as authenticating the client. That is nothing but applying security. Now why we are authenticating, validating and all that in the filter, you know, because the same logic would have been written in what? Many servlets. That is the problem. Okay, so instead of writing it in every servlet, this common logic, what you do? Write it in one filter. Now generally what happens is, now this, one type of logic will write in one filter now. Like validating session will write in one filter, then logging client info will write in one more filter, then authenticating the client will write it in one more filter. Okay, I'll show you that. Okay, why we write it is because tomorrow you don't need anything, now you can take out the filter. Tomorrow you can add it again. And order also you can decide. Supposing I want first, which one? Authentication. Then, first I want logging, then I want authentication, then I want session validation to happen. So you can decide the order also. So when you write multiple filters, I got the next example. Okay, I'll show you that. Okay, so when you write multiple filters, you can configure also. Means first this filter only should execute, then this should execute, then this should execute. How all that will be configured, we'll see. But generally what we do is, we write it in across multiple filters. All this I could have written in only one filter now. All this logic I can write only in one filter. But tomorrow you don't want the logic, very difficult to remove now. Because all the logic you'll be writing it in what? Only one filter, like this you'll write. Validating session also you'll write. Logging client info also you'll write. Then authenticating also I'll write. Tomorrow you have to go and don't want any logic, you have to go and remove or comment or do something. But let it remove. Tomorrow again you want to add. If you have removed again, how will you code now? So best is we think about what? Pluggable. Means in web.xml we'll just go and remove it in the XML file. Which one? Those tags or whatever the configuration, I will remove it. Automatically that filter will not get executed. So that's the idea of using a filter now. Clear? So we write it in multiple filters like this. One on filter will contain, one on logic. Okay. Then next, once the request processing is completed by the servlet and response is ready, you can stop the response which is going to the client and we can perform some task on that response. This is called as post processing. Okay. Some of the common tasks which you can do in post processing are applying encryption logic on the response data or applying compression logic on the response data. Some huge file image you want to give it to client, you can compress it and give it. Understood? Something you want to give, you can compress, encrypt, anything you want, you can give it. So that is post processing logic. Correct? So before the response goes to the client, you will be writing this kind of logic. Now filters are one option for addressing all these concerns in a single location rather than writing into each servlet. Clear? Fine. Now see this. Just now what I told, this is what will happen. So in one filter you will write one logic like this. In one filter you will have session validation. In one filter you will have security checklist, means authentication. Then here you will have logging, encryption, compression. Then you can configure. For whichever servlet you want, you can start configuring like this. This is one basic idea. Now instead of writing this logic commonly in all the servlets, just write it in filter. That is the advantage. Second thing is tomorrow you don't want to remove what you don't want. Where? Only in one small configuration you have to change in web.xml. So reusability is very high if you write in filter. Maintenance is easy. So these are the various advantages. Okay, so like this, because developer faces problem, these are the features provided by the technology. So more you know the technology, more easy development of your application becomes. It only takes some time to put effort and learn. But once you have the grip of that, coding becomes easy for you. That you need to understand now. Otherwise coding would have been a nightmare for the developer. Imagine you want to develop a web application. Getting all this implicitly is beautiful for us. Imagine without all this support, coding is very, very difficult. So that's the idea. So that's why these people give you all the support. So any problem developer is having, Sun will definitely give a solution to you. Clear? So this is the idea. Now, next topic. Filter chaining and servlet chaining. Both I'll go together. Already I've shown you servlet chaining. Okay. What is servlet chaining? Invoking multiple servlets one by one as a chain is called what? Servlet chaining. If one servlet wants to invoke another servlet, you can do it. How will you do it? You can implement the servlet chaining using forward method of request dispatcher. This I have covered. Okay, servlet chaining I have done. But now I'll cover which one? Filter chaining. Means one filter invoking what? Another filter. Same thing. But here, see, invoking multiple filters one by one as a chain is called filter chaining. Order of filter execution will be managed by web container based on the filter configuration done in web.xml file. Means, supposing I write 3 filters. Now you have to configure in web.xml now all the 3 filters. Now which one is first? That will get executed. Which one is second? That will get executed. Which one is third? That will get executed. Which one is fourth? That will get executed. So you decide the order. Where? In web.xml you decide the order. Beautiful now. Tomorrow you don't want the fourth one to be executed last. You want to put it to the second one. Just cut it, paste it as the second one in the web.xml. Finished. So automatically it will start executing second. The fourth filter will start executing what now? Second. So you configure. So that's what you mean. Order of filter execution will be managed by the web.xml based on the filter configuration done in web.xml file. I'll show you 3 filters I'll write and show you now. Clear? So fine. So you'll see this chaining now. So then you'll get the idea. That is the second example. I'll close all this once again. Yeah, now we'll come to, see, I'm having 3 filters. Filter 1, filter 2, filter 3. Same logic, I am just focusing on the flow now. Filter 1 is there. I just have copied and pasted, nothing else I am doing. Filter 1 is there. Now filter 2 is there, and next filter 3 is there. So now filter 1, you'll see the code, fc.do filter, same thing. So how will you invoke? One will see this do filter method can execute either a select or a filter. It depends which one is in the next queue. Understood? So the container knows what to invoke next. As soon as you say fc.do filter, either it will invoke the next filter or the next select. Container knows. We'll discuss about that. But logic is same. See, nothing has changed. Same code of the previous example. As soon as I say this, it will go to the second filter. As soon as this is invoked, it will go to the third filter. Now from third filter, it will go to servlet 1. That will execute. But remember, if you want to execute second servlet, here it is forward method. rd dot forward, and you'll forward request and response. I'll give the diagram for this. This is the idea. Okay. So then next is you can see this here in the web.xml. What you are doing is, see, this is how you configure. Two servlets, okay. This is servlet 1. This is servlet 2. All the three filters are there. See, filter 1, filter 2, filter 3. Filter 1, first we'll concentrate on filter. Filter mapping, clear? Sorry. First we'll concentrate on filter 1. If the URL is login, it will execute the select by name F1, filter 1. That's the class name. Same way if login, F2, filter 2. Then what? Login means for all the URL pattern is what? Login only. So same URL pattern. So container knows first which one will be executed now? Filter 1. Next which one will be executed? Filter 2. Then which one will be executed? Filter 3. I'll show you the diagram. Clear? After filter 3 executes, next which one it will execute? Servlet 1. We can change the order. Changing order I'll show you next. Why it will execute? Because the same URL pattern. So first select will execute. After the first select executes, then first select will invoke the second select with what? Request dispatcher, rd.forward and the URL pattern. URL for selects, remember always URL pattern is mandatory. rd.forward, second you will tell. So automatically execute second select. This is here. Understood? So till then what you are telling in the filter, how does one filter invoke the other filter? Same method, no change. So container knows when it is do filter, next which filter to execute, whether to filter or select. So here it knows it is second filter to execute. Then again when second filter, it knows fc.do filter, it knows to execute third filter. So in third filter what it will do? It will execute first select. This do filter is very aware of this, what to do next. So it's like on stack. Filter 1 executes that one, filter 2 executes that, filter 3 executes my select, first select. And then after select 1 completes execution, it will go to servlet 2. And now when the response is coming back, from servlet 2 directly it will come to what? Third filter, second filter, first filter. That you have to understand. Means it will not go to first servlet. So the diagram now, carefully understand. So when the request is done now, this is filter 1, this is filter 2, this is filter 3, this is servlet 1, this is servlet 2. See the request. First filter 1 will accept, it will send it to filter 2, it will send it to filter 3, go it to servlet 1, then from here it will go to servlet 2. When the response servlet 2 is giving, it will come back to what? Filter 3, post processing logic. Same ulta order it will come now. Then response will be given. So this will be bypassed. Now URL for this would be what? /login. Correct? Or for your // and all. What is the URL for this? Login. For this also URL is what? Slash login, slash login, slash login. Here also slash login. This is what? Slash second URL. And now this particular thing is called as what? Filter chaining. You understood how to do chaining? Filter chaining is a technical word. Chaining you have to tell. And this is called as what? Servlet chaining. So for chaining a servlet use rd.forward, request dispatcher. For chaining filters, what do you use? Do filter. That's it. Simple concept. But remember, now from the second servlet, request will not come to first servlet. Yeah? So here post-processing logic will go on getting executed. That's it. Are you clear with the diagram? You got the full grip of this now. Only we have to see the output. Yeah, so carefully observe the web.xml. So there are three filters configured. See, first one servlet is there. Second, another servlet is there. Servlet can be written in any order. But filters have to be configured in the order you want to execute. Remember that. Servlets can be configured in any order, there is no restriction. But filter mandatory, you have to configure in the way you want to execute. Now filter 1 will execute first, then filter 2 will execute next, then filter 3 will execute. But for all of them, URL pattern is login, login, and login only. And even for first servlet, it is login. So before the request goes to first servlet, all the three filters will execute. All the three filters, but order of execution will be first filter, second filter, third filter. Done. So having this idea, so don't concentrate anything in the logic. Hardly have printing name and which an IP address. Concentrate on the flow. So I'll deploy this, carefully notice, and what I'll do is I'll remove that other application, because you have got one more application running there now. That filter of that also will get executed. So I'll remove that, so that it will be clear for us when you see the output. I have removed it. Now see, I am deploying. Three filters will be instantiated. Notice. Okay. Run on server. Next, I am just deploying. Nothing I am doing. And already you can see three filters are instantiated. See here, when the instance is getting created, they can be created in any order. First one, third one, second one. There is no order when the instance is getting created. But when the request comes, first filter only, second filter only, third filter only. Instantiating can happen like this, no problem. Clear? But all the three filter instances have been created. Has the servlet instance got created? No. So when does the servlet instance get created? First request, because I am not using load on startup. Yes, we'll see it now. So yes, what is that? HTML / login dot HTML. Finished. Enter name. Almost all same thing. There is no change here. Ravi. I'll print. Hello Ravi. You passed all the filter and all the servlet. Means from first servlet you go to servlet. In second servlet I'm just printing it. I'm just generating one message. Hello name. You passed all the filter and all the servlet, and I'll print pw.println. I'm just printing it. So it will print. But that is okay. The output you saw. But the flow is very important now. Look at the flow. This okay. You are clear. So first, I need method of servlet 1 will execute, because URL pattern has come for hello. Servlet will execute. Then do filter of what is executing. Filter 1, filter 2, then do filter of filter 3. Only pre-processing logic. Post-processing is pending. Then it will go to servlet 1. Service will execute. Now when rd.forward is called, now servlet 2 is getting instantiated. Look, when the servlet is getting, second servlet is instantiated. Here, when from the first servlet, for servlet completed execution, rd.forward, because the URL pattern of second servlet is second. So now it gets instantiated. init of servlet 2. Then it will complete. Then see, after servlet 2, it is coming back to what? Filter 3. Then what? Filter 2, filter 1. See the flow. Okay? So just sit and go through it, you will only understand. But this is the flow, so you should know how to write your code. So after second servlet, it is not coming back to first servlet because you are using forward method. Forward method will never bring back the control to calling servlet. Okay, it will only forward it to second servlet. But from second servlet, it is moving back to filter 3, filter 2, filter 1. That's how it goes. Clear? So fine. Next request, you can clear the console. Okay, and make the request from outside. And just take the URL. Q. Fine, that is okay. But look, now all the instances are ready. Only filter 1, filter 1, then do filter of filter 2, then do filter of filter 3, then servlet 1, then servlet 2. init of servlet also will not execute because servlet instance is already instantiated. Then what? After second servlet, filter 3, filter 2, filter 1. Done? Like that it goes on now. All the 5 instances are ready. 3 for filter instance, 2 servlet instance. Now, when I shut down the server, what will happen? All the 5 instances will be destroyed. 2 servlet instance and 3 filter instance. But what order? First 2 servlets, then 3 filters. Done? Yes. See this? I shut down the server. Now go and see the console. See servlet 2, servlet 1, all of them are getting destroyed. But before destroying, or before destruction of the instances, the destroy method in each of the instances is getting invoked. So the life cycle of all this servlet, filter and all is taken care by the container. It knows when to create, when to destroy it. Clear? Perfect flow. This is called as chaining. So they'll ask you in the interview, how do you do chaining? Clear? So fine. See, this is chaining. Invoking multiple filters one by one is called as filter chaining. Order of filter execution will be managed by web container. Okay, and invoke based on the filter configuration. This is very important. How you do filter chaining based on the filter configuration. I show you that. I change the configuration now. Then invoking multiple servlet one by one is called as servlet chaining, and this is implementing the servlet chaining using forward method. You have to use the forward method of request dispatch. Done. So what was the order of execution now? 1, 2, 3 now. Tomorrow I want 3, 2, 1 or any order 2, 3, 1. Fine, you can do it. See what I'll do. Go to web.xml. Which filter you want first now? Tell. Third filter first. Okay, take. Just cut there, means configure it here. That's it. So now what will be the order of execution? First third, then first, then second. I show you the output. 3, 1, 2 it will be now. The output will be 3, 1, 2. Very simple. See this. So again we'll deploy. It stopped. So deploy it. Instances will be created in any order. You don't bother about that. See here. See, we configured 3, 1, 2. But this instance they are created in its own order. Don't bother. But when the request goes, now the order will be third filter, first filter, second filter. Remember the order. First it will go through third, then second, then first, third, then first, then second filter. So this will be the order because we have configured like that in web.xml. See that. First is 3, then first, then second. So 3, 1, 2 will be the order of execution. Then it will go to which servlet? First servlet. Then it will go to second. From second, what will be the order now? See, flow will be this F1. Sorry. Now this time the flow will be first F3, then F1, then F2. So that is why we call filter as what? Pluggable. Whenever you want you can add it, whenever you want you can remove it, and wherever you want you can add it. That is okay. Now see this flow. Again chaining only, but I changed the order. So this is called as filter chaining. How do you do filter chaining? By configuring in web.xml. Yes sir? How do you do Servlet chaining? id.forward. So that's the simple flow now. Shall I clear the diagram now? So it will be, remember this, 3, 1, 2 now. I have written it here. I show you the output, that's it. Yeah, we'll make the request now. See, I already deployed it. When I deployed, the filter instance is created in some order. Don't bother about this order now. When the filter instances are created, it will be created in any order it want. Okay, but the request flow is important for us. So the first filter instance got created, third, then second. Order of instance creation, forget it. But look at the flow when the request comes now. Yeah. So what is the URL I have to type? html/login.html. Enter. See, fine. Here now I'll make the request www. Fine. That's okay. But see, init method of select on okay, leave. Now which filter first? Third filter. Then which one? First, second. 3, 1, 2. Then I will go to which one? First select, second select. That is okay. But from second select it is coming back to what? 3, 1, 2 no. So now it should be what? 2, 1, 3. Ulta 2, 1, 3. Okay? So like that. So that's why we say it's pluggable. Wherever you want you can add it, wherever you want you can remove it. Beautiful it is. So that's why it will be extensively used in projects for writing pre-processing and post-processing logic. Fine. Understood chaining now? Yes. Now by chance, okay. Yeah, if you use filter to accept the request, till now your request was accepted by Servlet. Till now what you have coded or we have coded, we are accepting all the requests in a Servlet. But if you want, you can bring filter in between that Servlet also. How many filters you want now? 1, 2, 3, that's your wish, depending on your logic in the application. Understood? And it can be a pre-processing logic or it can be a post-processing logic. If you want pre-processing logic, only pre-processing logic, then what will you do? After fc.doFilter, don't write any logic. If you don't want any pre-processing logic and you want only post-processing logic, then don't write anything before fc.doFilter. Remove it, that's it. Understood now? Removing it. See, if I want, I showed you at the beginning of the class also. If I remove this, what will happen? Only post-processing logic. If I remove this, what will happen now? Only pre-processing logic. That's it. You decide. Okay. So that is done. So by chance, if you want, you can bring a filter in between the Servlet and client also. If you do it, okay, that is called as one design pattern. There's one more design pattern I'm covering now. Okay, very, very important design pattern. Okay, it's called as intercepting filter design pattern. One more design pattern you're seeing now. It's called as JEE design pattern. Okay, so we have covered many design patterns. I'll shortlist one by one. This is one more what you're saying now. See, first understand the problem. Problem is what? I want to intercept and manipulate request and response before and after the request is processed. Means before the request is processed also you want to do something. After the request is processed also you want to do something. That is your problem. Okay. But let us see more description into the problem. Pre-processing and post-processing of a request refers to action taken before and after the core processing of the request. Before the core processing of the request happens, okay, any action you want to do, that is called as pre-processing and post-processing. See, following are some of the actions. I am giving you the description of the problem in detail now. Okay, see, this is the problem description. Now see this. Following are some of the actions. Does the client have the valid session? Then next, log the client info into the log file or database, depends. Authenticating the user. Is the client's IP address from a trusted network? Okay. Does the request path violate any constraints, or do we support the browser of the client? Your application will not support all the browsers. Understood? Getting it now? So you will check before whether it is supporting or not. Then is the response stream encrypted? Is the response stream compressed? So like this, plenty of logics will be there. I just mentioned 3 or 4. Like that, this list is big. So when you having a problem like this, okay, what we do now? The common approach to handle these actions to implement a series. Okay, you can do it. If you are having this kind of a problem, solution you can think of like this. In your Servlet now, you have tried. What you have tried? The common approach to handle these actions is to implement a series of conditional checks. If, else, you have to go on writing. Okay, like that. And if you want to perform these actions for all the incoming requests for all servlets, then you'll get code duplication, maintenance problem, all that will come. So to avoid that, the solution is what now? You got the problem. Now look at the solution. The solution is what? Use an intercepting filter as a pluggable component to pre and post process request and responses. In this way, you can add, remove and combine these filters in various ways without changing existing code. So that's why it is called as intercepting filter design pattern. Clear? So this is also one more design pattern. So some of the design patterns which you have covered is what? Singleton, intercepting filter, TO, front controller. So again, more I'll cover. So all this will be used when you are developing a project. Just be aware of all these design patterns. When you do a project, you'll start understanding which design pattern will be used where. Because that's one of the most powerful interview question. Tell the different design patterns you used in your project. Why did you use? So why did you use and all, I'm just giving up here. But this will become more specific when you are doing a project. Because in your project, what was the problem, you have to be very clear. In your project, you will not have all the problem now. You will be solving 1 or 2 problems. So you have to tell related to your project. This I am giving a general idea. But when you talk about a project, when you are going for interviews and all, they will ask which are the different design patterns. You will tell, in my project, I used intercepting filter pattern. Why did you use? You have to tell, explain it, and then you have to tell how you had implemented. Just I give you an idea, like how it can be used in practical scenarios. Done? Okay. So this completes filter for you. Done? So and these are the examples. Only 2 examples are given, but I covered almost all the things required for a filter. Okay, that's it then.